she wanna know me. I stay low key, all gas, no brakes, baby, let them hoes sleep. Body on 10, make your girl OD. I get in my way, never out of my lane. Feel like you the one and I'm on one. So what it's gonna be? Baby, squad up, we finna go deep. Riding on a team, got what you need. Baby, won't you keep me company? Give me something to do when I get lonely. I got something for you when we get home. If you let me put it down, when I hit the town, you should ride on me. Keep your minds on me. On try, baby, I think you should side with me. Stay solid one time if you lie with me. Just promise you never lie to me. Keep the moves on tuck, I know it's all love. Everything good, keep the vibes on crush. I know it's all good, know it's all love, know it's all love. I've been feeling like the motherfucking man lately. Can't nobody do it like I can daily. Baddest in the lattice in the land. Body turn your nigga to a fanny up, fanny up. I made it where I'm at on my own. Had a couple blocks in the road, but I get to the bag on the low. I be counting stacks while they grow, yeah, you know me. Baby, won't you keep me company? Give me something to do when I get lonely. I got something for you when we get home. If you let me put it down, when I come in town, you should slide on me. Keep your minds on me. On try, baby, I think you should side with me. Stay solid one time if you lie with me. Just promise you never lie to me. Keep the moves on tuck, I know it's all love. Everything good, keep the vibes on crush. I know it's all good, good. Know it's all love, know it's all love.
NathanIvey.com. Mr. Ivey know the show must go on. As far as Cincinnati, man, I put on. Tunes made another flame beat for me to cook on. Raised dogs, closed fish, yeah, too strong. Team AI, chop it up at the chop shop. Top notch with the king flow, the hot shot. Cop squats in, listen to the real. Jumping like hopscotch, nobody harder than, oh, no, think not. Not only citywide, but nationwide. Superlative, keep it locked like them Haitian guys. Put the truth in the airways, we talk about it. Brand new like the templates, let's be about it. Who got the info by the AM? Jono be the rapper, got them jamming when they play him. Staying in my lane, they ain't gotta okay him. Who the host with the scoop? Yeah, they gon' say him. Ivy, so superlative like a bag of Drippos. Show you where the bricks at, Cincinnati red tag. One time where my people at. Team NI where my people at. It's the 5-1-3, yeah, you know the flow. What's the word, Nate? Let them know the show. One time where my people at. Team NI where my people at. My people at.
Welcome back. Good morning. Man, that's the dopest intro out there, period. I'm going to go ahead and claim it. And it was made with love. They caught the essence of the show in its relationship with the city of Cincinnati. Good morning to you. This is the Nathan Ivey Show. We're online now. I ran into somebody within the last 2 weeks, I've been meaning to tell you, who said that used to listen to the show. And he's like, I don't know what happened to you, bro. I'm like, bro, you're not on Facebook. You're not on social media. So we got a chance to reconnect. I love that. That means the audience is growing. Appreciate each and every one of you. Let me shout out all the people that help populate and keep the Friends Who Like the Nathan Ivey Show Facebook group going. I appreciate you. Thank you very much. and all the people that keep it up to date. I check it daily. That's my go-to Facebook place. I start there, obviously, and usually in there. And it's a great source of it's a great resource for the show. That's how I look for it. And then it lets me connect and share some stuff with people as well. And someone posted it in that group, and that's how I came across this video, which I'll play for you in a second. And what you'll see is, and again, I'm not sure if this is a show or I'm not sure the nature of it. You know, I don't have the full history on who the brother is. I am _Mr. Let Go on Instagram. But he had a very interesting conversation, and he was talking about the black family. And, you know, that's right in our wheelhouse. That's in my wheelhouse. So I want to talk about it. Got another video for you, which the title for this video is Never Underestimate the Quiet Ones. It's a little bit rough. We'll get into it this morning. But first, let me say good morning and welcome to another beautiful day under the sun. Beautiful Thursday. Today is March 3rd, 2022. All those fucking twos, man. Did y'all do something special on 2/22/22? Did it work? Was that like a magical day? 2/22/22, like somewhere something was unlocked. Like the gates of hell were unlocked and the demons just haven't gotten to us yet, some shit like that. Or, I don't know, like some new artist created some super dope music on that day. I mean, something great had to have happened on 2/22/22. I've been waiting to see, but nothing's really bubbled up to the surface, at least on my radar screen. What do you think? Good morning to you. It's just me. Good morning. Welcome back. Hope you're doing well. Nathan Ivey with you. Yeah, I'm like, man, something's got to come bubbling up on 2/22/22. That's like, got to be like a day in the Book of the Damned or something like that. Or it's got to be like some Mayan apocalyptic code or something like that. I just can't believe we're going to let a good like day like that go by. Did anybody hit the lottery on that day? I kept telling the wife, we're going to play some lottery tickets on 2/22/22. Babe, we're going to play right. And we never even did it. You know, I remember falling asleep on 2/22/22, like, I surrender, right? And just straight to bed. Oh, man. But anybody get lucky? I mean, any witches out there? I mean, for real, like, did you cast a spell or something? I don't know. People are into different kind of things like that. Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Don't knock it till you try it. Good morning to you. 513-873-7134. If you'd like to share your thoughts this morning, it's the Nathan Ivey Show, your morning destination for interesting conversation. And I want to have some interesting conversations with you this morning. Now, coming up at about 9 a.m., I'm scheduled to speak with a brother named Malcolm Ennis. Malcolm Ennis. And he can describe himself for himself. And he just purchased a radio station, which I thought was an interesting process. So I thought, boom, how do I know Malcolm Ennis? We used to work together back in my old corporate radio days. Yeah. Another guy, man, who, if you don't know, everybody likes Malcolm. Everybody likes Malcolm. Is that the name of a TV show? So that's at 9 a.m. So stick around for that. Should be interesting. Should be very, very interesting this morning. And how are you? Hope you're doing well. What's popping? What am I missing? What's going on? What should we be talking about? You can always drop links and make suggestions or hit me with a direct message and we can get into it. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, again, let me show you the cover art for today. Here's the cover. Black man says no father in a house with children is a failure. He was real about it too. He meant it. This clip is about, I don't know, it's over 2 minutes. So maybe we'll like stop and go type of thing. Like stick and move, stop and go type of thing. And because I think it's important that you actually see it for yourself.
Not at all.
I can't do it justice. You know, you got to hear it and see it for yourself. So let me try to set some things up for you. Yeah, he was real about it. And the sister was making some points as we start out. She was talking about, you know, females these days, women these days, black women these days, they got a whole different mindset out here. Or maybe it's a more intense mindset than their aunties and their uncles. But she was on some, I don't need some man. Like a lot of what she said, I agree with completely. She was like, I don't need a man to be happy. I don't need to be married to be happy. I was like, sis, I agree with you 1,000%. I wish more people felt that way. And at some point, the conversation gets to when she starts talking about, I think he asked her, like, what's happiness? Like, what's success is what he asked her. What's successful? So she starts talking about what successful is. And then she says something about having kids. If I want to have kids, I don't need no man. She went down that line. And he was like, perp the break. Nah, bro. Nah, sis, we can't do that. Have y'all seen this? I fully admit this might be old. I don't know. Can't you tell? I'm not always up to date on every single thing that's happening. It's just so much happening on the internet these days. That's why I need your help. Again, Brandy writes greetings. Anthony writes morning chop shops. Elaine writes good morning. Good morning, Elaine. Professional Reimbursement Network writes good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. Good morning, Renee. Jack M. Often. So there I fucking finally said it. I mean, anyway, top of the morning to you from a G. Okay, G's recognize G's. Eloise is in the house. Good morning, Elo. Beautiful name. Patricia writes, good morning, choppers. Kelly writes, good morning. Regina writes, good Thursday morning, all. Everybody's waking up. Now, I'm not sure where you are, but I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio. Yeah, that's Cincinnati, Ohio with the Bengals. Yeah, it's a real thing. Yep. We'll see what happens, who they, and all of that. Brendy writes, happy Thursday. Dante writes, good morning, Nathan and the Choppers. Barbara writes, good morning. Glenn's in the house, a.k.a. Flo Debo. I like that, man. Like that. We're going to have to fight for that. We're going to have a talk off for that one. Perhaps. Maybe not. Good morning to you. Daryl writes, good morning, Nate and the Choppers. Good morning to you. I don't know if I feel like being triggered this morning with this topic, Nathan Ivey, on the show this morning. Yeah, I'm definitely trying to trigger people. Guilty as charged. Absolutely. But, I think there's also, some substance to the conversation as well. Let's not act like we don't think this way, or you don't know somebody, or you may not think, you may feel the way this brother feels. I don't know. Speaking of which, I think we've set the table quite enough. I think so. Let's go to this. Let's go to the tape. Let's do that. So this is, and shout out to, I can't remember who posted it, and I can't tell right now, but whoever posted this, I appreciate you. So check this out.
A woman doesn't need a husband to be successful, because I didn't need my husband. I was already successful and up before I had him.
What are you talking about?
You don't need a husband to be successful. Not at all.
What does successful look like, boys?
Happy in your own skin. Happy with the person that you are, and love with the person that you are, that you don't have to look for a man to love you.
Okay, so let's stop right there. Like, we all enlightened now at this point. Like, maybe you asked this question many years ago, you get a different response. But something tells me, like, to the question of, like what the sister just said, that you don't need to have a husband in order to be successful. I think the majority of the audience would agree with that, right? Anybody disagree with that? I mean, if you do, don't feel like I'm in a minority and now you can't be real. That's what we do here. That's what it means to be chopper. It means you got to be you, whatever that is. But I really don't know. I mean, is there anything to that? Anybody disagree with what she said? Do you need to have a husband in order to be successful? Is that the role of a woman? I don't know. I'm just stirring the pot.
Because you already love yourself. And that's what I mean by a successful fememale. Because success can look in any other way. Is
this successful female going to have children?
Yeah, she may have children. She may have children.
So
she may.
It's part of being successful with kids?
Yes, you can be successful with kids. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So how can you be in this, what you just painted out to be successful without being married, and you have a child in this scenario? So without
the child has nothing to do with that scenario.
Children has everything to do with that scenario. So when you said a woman can be successful and not get married, when you add a child to that, she is no longer successful. She is now a single mother. And being a single mother is not success. Single motherhood is failure. A child, a family comprises of a man and a woman, not a woman. If you are a single mother, there is a certain amount of failure. And I'm sorry to say this, but we got to stop this shit. We have to look at life the way it actually is instead of what y'all asses want it to be. For you to sit here and say you could be successful, cool, yes. But when I started asking you different parts of the success and you started adding children, well, if there's no man in the household, if there's no man leading, helping you raise that child, sorry, that is not success. See, if you would have said, oh, one can make millions of dollars, not that's success. But there is no success when there's only a mother and not a father in the household, because then you're thinking selfishly. You may feel like you're successful, but does your child think you're successful? Does your child think that they're successful? No, because they didn't have no daddy. And even if the daddy was around, they didn't have a daddy raise them in the same household. There is no success without the intact family. Now, I've admitted.
All right, so let me just jump back in right there. So I think you get the gist of what the brother was trying to say. He said there is no success without the father there. He was cool. Like, you single, you making your money, you living your best life, you traveling, you're buying stuff, you're eating stuff, you're doing stuff, you're posting stuff, right? But as soon as you have a child, in his opinion, all that, now you're a single mother. It ain't the same. Is there any truth in that, or is it all some BS? This is some of that old fucking BS. Is this some of that old, come on now? Or is he right about that? You know, some women these days, they want to have it all minus a man. You want to have it all. Can you? Brother says hell to the no. But let's go to the phones. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Nathan, where did you find this clown? Let me explain why he's got me irritated first thing in the morning. First thing I want to say is excellent show yesterday. That show was a bomb.
Oh, the brother. Oh, yeah, he was on point.
With James Troop, yeah. I even reached out and friended him. I thought we were already friends on Facebook. We sort of revolve in the same social media circles, but yeah, great show.
Thank you.
So, Nathan, at age 3, and my sister is 18 months younger than me, my parents divorced. And it was primarily because Papa was a Rolling Stone. And what I will say to the young man that thinks that single motherhood is a failure, my mother would have been a failure had she stayed with my father and raised 2 girls and showed us that it's okay to keep your man around when he's nothing but a cheater, non-provider, drug user, and the like. So, you know, kudos to that sister that doesn't need a man to be successful, because you don't. That's not what you base success on as a woman. But I applaud my mother for stepping out on faith, raising 2 girls by herself. And this is back in the day in the 70s, because I was born in 69, when working at Cincinnati Bell and making $70 a week was enough. And all he was ordered to pay was $50 a week for 2 kids. And that was still too much for him to want to do. But I think she would have been a bigger failure staying with him and just going along to get along, you know, just for the sake of us, and would have been miserable and would have been raising us in a toxic environment. So that guy that's talking can go kick rocks with sandals on, because he hasn't been on the other side, and he's not thinking clearly, in my opinion.
Is that right, Tracy? I don't know. I'm not sure if what you just said, like, I think, and again, he's not here, so I got to assume his role just to stir the pot. I think the brother might respond and say, look, that what happened in your situation is a little bit different, but it just means that y'all was brought up in still a less than ideal situation. Like, moms was dealing, like, your pops had some other issue going on. She couldn't be with him. But the fact that no man was there was still less than ideal. And in his mind, still
still chose to be a single mother. She could have stayed married and had the family unit that he's bragging on.
He says that's a failure. That's what he's saying. Because there's no man there.
Well, it's a bigger failure to raise your kids in a toxic environment knowing that you have the option to get out of it. That's
I would agree.
Rebuttal.
I would agree. but failure both nonetheless. That's what he would say.
I don't see single motherhood as being a failure. You know, I don't know. I don't. If you have kids, if you choose to have kids, and you can take care of them, and you provide for them, and you don't put the onus on somebody else, good for you. You know, I don't think that makes you a failure. That's just my personal opinion.
Do you believe that the ideal family, in terms of what's best for the overall well-being of the children, assuming both of those parents are positive and working together, is mom and dad in the home? That's where he seems to be coming from. He seems like he's coming from that standpoint where that is the prime. Anything less than that is a failure, because that's what's best for the children. Isn't that what's true, though? Isn't that true?
It's ideal. It's ideal in America's eyes, but I've seen two parents have joint custody and raise successful children. You know, what's the difference?
He would say still failure because they're not in the house together. And since we know that's the best way to do it, isn't he right? And it's just uncomfortable to admit it?
No, he's not right, because, again, you can have those same two parents in the household and walk around with their kids and don't even talk to each other, but they're there for the children. That's a failure. That's a bigger failure.
But see, that's why I add the caveat, like, look, assuming the adults are positive and are creating a positive environment, right?
What percentage of marriage is that, though?
That's not the issue. You taking us off the issue. That's not the issue, Tracy. I'm just saying for the sake
No, I'm just looking at it from all sides, because there's way too many scenarios in marriage. Every marriage is not a happy marriage. Every marriage is not a sad marriage or an angry marriage. But there are different cases, especially when you're bringing up kids and there's outside stresses that factor into your marriage. I mean, you've been married just as long as I have. You know what it is.
Yeah, but still, that's to the
Nathan,
side.
you're just trying to push buttons this morning and stir the pot. Let that dude stir the pot. He's wrong.
Saying, I just think you just took us off the topic a little bit. That's all I'm saying.
He didn't look at it from all sides. Wait, in the background of this dude, is he married? Has he ever been married? What's his story?
I don't know, but I don't think it really matters to the conversation that much, does it? What does that matter?
Is single fatherhood a failure?
Yeah.
I'm going to start pushing some buttons, because there's some men out here. Oh, no, he wouldn't. He probably wouldn't. He would say, kudos to that man that took responsibility and took his kids from that mom. She was a failure anyway.
Well, if it's a toxic environment,
don't make me cuss this morning.
Because that's a bigger...
Oh, now it's okay if it's a toxic environment. Nathan, I'm hanging up on you, because now you flipping
the beginning of the conversation. Everybody knows this, right? I think we assume this for the sake of the conversation, that if you got to remove yourself from a toxic environment, because you talked about your own situation with your mother, we understand that. You got to do what you got to do. But he's still saying that the next level is not having a parent in the house, not having dad in the house, is not the best way to raise.
You know what that dude would say in my case? Your mama should have made it work. She should have went to counseling. That's what he would say in my case. Your mom's a failure because she didn't try and make it work. She just left. She should have went to counseling. He wouldn't be on my mother's team.
I don't think he would say. I don't think that's the argument he was making at all.
You need to find that guy and get him on the show, because I'd like to have a conversation with him.
I would too. You know what? I'll do just that. I'll do just that. Thanks for the call.
All right.
Yeah, most def. That's Tracy. Tracy. You're taking us way over here. We way over here, Tracy. She way over here. What difference did that make? I don't know. We'll get to that later. But no father in the house equals failure. Does he have a point? Like, how many people agree that the optimal situation for a child is mom and dad in the house in a positive way? Now, if dad got a problem or mom got a problem, is creating a toxic environment, that's a bigger concern than either one of them not being there. We all got that. There's a lot of people that believe that. We hear it all the time. He just actually said it, and I think Tracy was getting a little in her feelings a little bit. Sometimes that happens with these kind of topics, because it just, it hits so close to home. I get it. Glenn writes, morning ain't the choppers, #Flow Debo. I think I read that already. Let me catch up here. Anthony's in the house. He writes, like and share. Thank you, Anthony. Daryl writes, yeah, your intro is dope. Improve. Some of the best things aren't new. Absolutely. Absolutely. Dee writes, good morning. That's a classic intro. You know, music is like that. Iris writes, good morning, great people. Nat writes, good Thursday, Nate in the Choppers. Fame writes, good morning, Rosting here. Make sure you come straight away. Don't come sideways. Okay. All right. Absolutely. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Hey, who am I speaking with?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Sakina.
This is who?
Oh, this is Sakina.
Zakina.
Sakina, yeah.
Sakina. Hey, what's up, Sakina?
Nothing, what's going on?
Doing well. So what's on your mind?
I just wanted to respond to the topic. I just listened to Tracy respond, and I'm trying to stay on topic. Because I definitely agree that it is not the most ideal situation for the father to not be in the home. But I think what's triggering for me as a single parent and a single mother is like whenever it's spoken about failure in that situation, it's always spoken on failure on the end of the woman. It's never seen as a failure on the end of the man. It's always like anything negative associated with single parenting, single mothering, anything of that nature is always associated with the woman. Just like, but she touched on it a little bit, and she was like, they don't look at single fathers that way. Single fathers are praised. Like, oh, you're doing so great. You always have his kids. But single mothers are the bane of society. Like, most of us don't come out here trying to be a single parent. Like, I know there are some that definitely choose that path, but that's not the overwhelming majority of us out here just trying to be a single parent and trying to not have a father around or not be in the home. Like, that's not something most of us are looking for. Most of us want a complete nuclear family with the mother and father and the children together.
That's interesting. You know, I think the reason it went that way is because he was talking with the sister in the video, and she said that that's what she thought success was. And so he jumped on it after there. But I hear what you're saying, though. That's an interesting way of looking at it.
Yeah, I got where he was coming from with that, because I think it was the way she said it. Like, well, I can have a kid, and I'm like, well, I kind of was with him on that one. Like, okay, wait a minute. You definitely need a man to have a baby. Like, in some aspect, you need the sperm or something to have that baby. But it's definitely ideal to have both parents. It's ideal to have it in a healthy environment and things of that nature. But if it falls apart, we as a society got to stop looking at it as only a failure on the mother's behalf, the failure on the parents' behalf, on the family's behalf. But it ain't just her failure.
You know, I wonder if yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you for the call. Yeah, I agree with that. And I can see how a woman might take it that way. I can understand that. I'm with that. But I think what the brother's trying to say is a failure on both parts. And the only reason why it got pointed toward the female is because that's who he was talking to. They weren't just having like a general conversation. They were talking about her perspective and what she thought. And that's the reason why it kind of like is being critical of what she said. I mean, that's what the clip is. If you don't know what we're talking about, I'm going to show this for you real quick. You can check this out for yourself. I'll just play it back just a little bit and let the brother talk for himself.
If you are a single mother, there is a certain amount of failure. And I'm sorry to say this, but we got to stop this shit. We have to look at life the way it actually is instead of what y'all asses want it to be. For you to sit here and say you could be successful, cool, yes. But when I started asking you different parts of the success and you started adding children, well, if there's no man in the household, if there's no man leading, helping you raise that child, sorry, that is not success. See, if you would have said, oh, one can make millions of dollars, not that's success. But there's no success when there's only a mother and not a father in the household, because then you're thinking selfishly. You may feel like you're successful, but does your child think you're successful? Does your child think that they're successful? No, because they didn't have no daddy.
So that's what the brother had to say. He said, no, because they ain't had no daddy. That is hilarious, man. Something about the way he said that. So that's what the brother thinks. You heard it for yourself. Straight up. And I want to know how many people will agree with him. Now, also, let me give you a heads up. Coming up at 9 a.m., I know this is a very provocative topic, and a lot of people have their opinions, and I want to hear all of them. But we do have a scheduled guest, my man, Malcolm Ennis from my corporate radio days, man. He was always a good brother to me. And we still stay connected on social media. I saw that he had purchased a radio station, man. I've been wanting to get him on ever since, just to talk about his journey and also, you know, how he's come to this point, and then also moving forward. You know what I'm saying? And also moving forward. So stick around for that. Should be interesting. A part of my Inspiring People, Inspiring Conversation series here on the Nathan Ivey Show. So let's go back to the phones. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Nathan. It's Shannon. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Shannon. I'm great. I'm doing great. Welcome.
Good. Hey, so here's my question. I hear, you know, the explanation and where things are coming from, but why is it that we have to make this like a lifelong failure? Like, obviously, two people failed, but why can't this woman feel or be successful and her children feel that she is successful in spite of what has happened with her children's donor or their dad, if he's a deadbeat or not, but just because they didn't work out and that piece of their life was a failure, why does that equate to, I mean, like, what is she supposed to do? Constantly walk around the house and be like, hey, kids, yep, I'm a failure. Sorry you don't have a dad. Or what's the alternative for her to have a revolving door of men come in and out to try to fill that gap so she doesn't feel like a failure? And that becomes a problem for a lot of women because they do feel like that because of what society says the home should look like or should be. But again, why does it have to be that that's something that she has to continuously carry with her or, you know, be the topic of, you know, life in her children's lives or households when there are so many other areas and things that she could be successful in? Like, why does it, again, have to be such a lifelong, like, bashing of her and her family?
Well, I mean, and Shannon, I really appreciate you calling. I really do. Well, listen, I'm just stirring the pot here, and the brother's not here, so I'm just gonna jump into his role and sort of rebuttal as if I was him. You know, the way I think he might rebuttal, but I think he might say, like, it's not that anybody's bashing you. The brother said we got to tell shit like it really is. Real is real. You know, you've now created a situation that's a lifelong situation for your children. Because, like, not having a dad in the life is going to affect those kids for the rest of their life. And so he might say, look, the stigmatization or just the realization that you didn't do what you didn't create the most optimal environment for your children. It's just something you're going to have to deal with.
Absolutely, and I agree with that. But again, when he says, the thing for me was that he continuously says, like, well, you can't be successful. You're not successful. Yeah, you might have $1 million, but you don't have a man in the house, so you're not successful. Like, is there only one measure of success, and that measure being having a two-parent household? Because if that's the measure, then we all screwed.
You are a little bit unfair to him, Shannon, and you tried to slip that in on us. You don't have a man. That's not what he said. He said you don't have a father in the house. Because when she was talking about living her best life,
household.
He was cool until she said that she wanted to have kids with no man in the house. That's what the issue was. You trying to be slick.
I did not. I'm saying swap it out for two-parent household. But, I mean, again, is that the only measure of success? And because you don't have that, does that mean that everything else ceases to be good or ceases to be anything worth having?
No, I think the brother might argue he's not saying that. He's just saying that it will forever and always it will forever and always not be what it should supposed to be for your children because dad wasn't there. That's what he's saying. And that's failure on some levels.
He said it is, but he's saying that everything else is a failure. He said it doesn't matter if you have this, doesn't matter how you do this or what you do or get, you're still a failure. So again, are you supposed to constantly walk around and be like, yep, kids, your dad left, your dad's not here, and I provided for you. You've always had a home. You've always had what you needed. You've gotten, a great education. You've done wonderful things in the world. But you know what? this is all a failure. This is not success.
I don't think he's
'Cause
saying
you
that,
didn't have
Shannon.
a father in the
You're
home.
being dramatic. I think you're being dramatic.
I'm listening to what he said.
I think you're being dramatic because he's not saying that. What he's saying is live your best life. Do your best. Overcompensate. You know, do whatever parents do in that kind of situation, right? But it will forever and always be a failure because you did not provide the most optimal environment for your child. And that's just what he's saying on fact, on principle. That's where he seems to be coming from.
Okay, but but even in saying that, if we all acknowledge that, right, what is the point in that? What is the point in that? Is it to negate everything else? Like, what is the point of the acknowledgement of that? Because you can acknowledge it, but do you have to stay in it and wallow in it? Like, to acknowledge it and say, yes, that is a failure in my life. I made that mistake. Like, how long does a person have to continuously let that be the thing?
The brother might say learn from it, whatever that means. He might say that. I don't know. Learn from it. I mean, live your best life, sis, but just know this over here, you didn't build it the way you were supposed to. You just got to move on now. You got one shot at it. It's over. That's what he's saying.
Right. So, yeah, that's what I mean. I just don't see, like, where does it end? You know what I mean? Like,
it never ends because your children will live forever being from an environment with no dad in the house.
Okay.
And that's going to impact them for the rest of their life and every facet of their life. So it's lifelong.
So what's the alternative then? If she's doing it wrong by trying to be successful, despite of not having a father for her kids, what's the alternative?
Yeah, I think this is more of a philosophical kind of comment. It just, the more we talk about it, the more it feels like this is like a philosophical argument, right?
Okay,
because
so
I hear what you're saying. Like I said, that's what I said. In all practical terms, what do you do with that? You got to live your best life and go out there and be excellent if you can. But just know that this over here, you ain't do that right. You ain't do that right. That's what you do, and that's what he does.
I don't think
that's what the father does as well.
Oh, absolutely, they do go live their best life.
Well, no, I think there's parents out there that realize that they didn't provide the best environment for their children, and that's something they got to live with for the rest of their lives. Whether they were in the house and left, or somebody left them, or they were never in the house. I think it's parents that deal with that.
Right.
So women got to deal with it too. It's fathers that deal with that.
Well, that's all I had. Thank you, Nathan.
All right, Shannon,
have a good day.
Yep, have a great day.
Okay. Bye.
Oh man, that's Shannon right there. Whew. Talked my way out of that one, didn't I? You see me working? But nah, Y'all know what the brother's saying. You know, deal with it. Scar tissue. There's some rough stuff. Let's go back to the phones. Good morning. Welcome to the show. I'm doing great, Nicole. Good morning. I am. I definitely am.
Biological father, but I had, many stepfathers, grandfathers, uncles, and different ones that impacted my life in such a way that despite not having my biological father in the household, I still came out okay. I think I'm okay, and I don't blame my mother by any means. And I certainly don't see her as a failure by any means. She's a loving Christian woman. She did the best she could. She raised me well. She raised my brothers and sisters well. And so I think the position that the young men have is just like a, very narrow-minded, position. And there's no instruction book on being a parent. Let's take that note as well. And another example I would give is even with my own mother. Again, she has said when she grew up with both her mother and her father, but her father was not compassionate. He never gave them hugs, kisses, nothing. Like, he was just there. It was just a presence, and it was more or less, a provider. But, it wasn't, a close, loving thing. So growing up in a household like that, I don't know if that was ideal. She could say her father was there, sure. But if, that father doesn't have really any idea on how to be a parent, then what does that say? And I think that mindset, that when you have that mindset that you have to have a man, that you have to have a woman, that you have to, raise a child with someone else or, with that other parent or biological parent, that's a recipe for when people remain in toxic relationships. There are plenty of marriages that stuck together for the kids, simply, but they were miserable, and that miserableness exudes from their parenting. The kids see that. They're not seeing two loving relationships. So when they go out into the world, they're picking individuals, toxic individuals in the same situations, because it isn't so much what you say, it's what they see, right? And so I don't even think that's good advice, to just be like having people believe that you have to stay in something for the kids, and it's not right and it's not healthy, and especially in any scenario. Say the man is cheating. What does that do to a little girl's psyche to see her father cheating on her mother, or to know this outright, and to see that her father betrays her mother, and then on the other end to see her mother stay, like she don't know her own worth. What will that do to her when she grows up and to become a woman, and then she ends up in that same scenario? What does she do? Do she repeat the same cycle, toxic cycle? A person growing up in an abusive relationship, and that person like, oh, I'm gonna stay because it's their father, this and that, whatever. What does that say to the little girl when she grows up and her mother doesn't leave, and she just remains in it, and it's for her? She may not even realize she's doing it for herself, but she remains in it. When she grows up and she finds herself in the same situation, what does she do? Does she know how to get away, or does she do what her mother did?
But you know what, TNT?
What?
The same, the same thing with Tracy. I think that what he would say is, and we all agree, that a toxic relationship, you got to leave that. But that's not what the comparison is. In the video, he was comparing, this woman said that living her best life and being successful, having lots of money, living her dreams, and then having kids with no father. That's what he's saying. He's saying, look, you can have all the money, everything's going right in your life. Once you bring a kid into the mix, dad needs to be in that household. And if he's not, it's a failure, because you're not doing what you need to do to create the foundation for your children. But everybody agrees, if it's toxic, you got to roll.
Yeah, well, I think everybody also agrees that, it really depends on the situation. Like I said in the very beginning, you got households that are, a lesbian household, and just because a male presence isn't in there doesn't mean that child won't grow up to be successful. And like I said earlier, I think really who determines their success and failure, or how they was raised, is that child, not, some guy on a podcast or whatever. He may feel like that, you know what I mean? But there's so many different, scenarios. Dad can be out of the picture because of imprisonment. Dads could be out of the picture because of death. Dads can be, like Nick Cannon, just having 100 kids, and he just cannot be with all his kids. You know what I mean? But whatever the situation is, what is required is the village. Even when you are married and it's two, a mother and a father, a lot of times it's still that network of family, the grandparents and different ones that help raise the child. It is a village, and it's really the combination of just love. All that really matters in that nucleus is love. And if that child is raised in love and has a good foundation from that, no matter what, I think that you can raise a child successfully. It should not be deemed as a failure because you have no control, of everything and all these other factors that comes into play. You're trying to single it and narrow it to one specific scenario. And that's not fair because that's not everybody's situation. If you want to, tag it to just that particular scenario, then you just need to talk to people that have that as their, situation, which for most people, that is not. There's so many variables, so many factors that can't, you just can't narrow it like that. So to say that as an overall generality, like to be a matter of fact, that's not. Of course, it's his opinion, but it's just too generalized to blanket that like that. It's too many different variables. So again, like I said, there's different scenarios, lesbians, household, gay households, and they're raising children. And to say that you have to have the opposite sex in order to be successful, I think that's a farce. And you need to go back to the drawing board. It's really all about love to me. So that's all I got.
That's all I need, TNT. Thanks for the call. I appreciate it. Man, I wanted to start the pot this morning. I did it with intentionality for sure because, I want to have some interesting conversation with you. And at this point, I need to put that conversation to the side because I want to welcome in my guest. I invited a guest in. I met this brother many years ago working in corporate radio, and we still stay connected via social media. And I saw that he was making some major moves in that he had purchased, I believe, a radio station or maybe even more. So I reached out to him to see if he'd be willing to come on the show, and he said yes. I got him backstage right now. Let me pull him into the conversation. What's up, brother Malcolm?
Hey, what's up? How are you? You all right?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well, brother Malcolm. It's been a minute, man.
It's been a while, brother, since since 05 back in the Natty, I believe,
Yeah. You done been what, 2 different cities since then?
Good, man.
How many cities you been in since
Yeah,
then?
so let's see. Well, probably just the 2. When I left Cincinnati, I ended up going to Houston, and I've been in Houston for probably at that point for about 16 years, and so from Houston ended up coming to Mississippi actually, and this is kind of where where that opportunity kind of came into play.
Now, you're originally from Mississippi?
So my wife is from Mississippi, and so I remember doing the whole courting process or what have you, right? Visiting home for her. So I met her in Mobile, Alabama. I was working at a radio station in Mobile, and visited her over the years and what have you here in Mississippi. And typically, like with when you're in radio, one of the big things you do is you visit when you go out of town and you visit different markets. You visit the radio station just to kind of check it out and see what's going on. It's kind of like a fraternity or a sorority or what have you, right? Just to kind of at the stations here many years ago, probably about maybe, I don't know, maybe 10, 12 years ago. And man, this is pretty cool. I mean, it was old, very old. In the back in your mind, I could do this. And you never know what Most High has in store for you. And here we are years later. Now I own them.
Yeah. I definitely want to talk about that, man. But when we met back in 2005 here in Cincinnati, what was your job? Were you in sales?
In Cincinnati, I met you. I was in the sales department, and so when I got at commercial radio. But I was the guy, I was pouring soda, right? I was getting a slice of pizza at the live remotes, right? I was just tech. And then over the years, having had some opportunities with my mentor, Hurricane Dave, as well as Terry Thomas, you remember, had some opportunities to kind of grow in the business. Kind of went into the marketing director position. So before you kind of came on board in Cincinnati, I was the promotions and marketing director over at that time it was as well as in the Buzz, I believe. And so I was just in charge of promotions and marketing for the station. Any of the image y'all, I was kind of right. And so you have in radio, you have the program, and that's basically here on air. It's the ears and the mouthpiece, so to speak, of a radio station. The promotions and marketing guy, I'm the visual. So everything that you see with the station and that you kind of relate to what that station is, what it looks like, imaging, brand where we are in the community. That was my, and so having worked in it, it was a good time.
Yeah. I never really knew. I figured it was something like that. You know what I'm saying? I figured it was something like that, but I didn't know exactly what the title was. There was some good times, man. I know you still talk to Terry Thomas?
Yeah. I talked to her the other day. She's in Houston. And so she is, she's still doing the thing, man. Trying to hold on to it. Radio has changed a little bit. It's evolved a little bit, right? And so
I want to talk about that.
We're still at it. She's the
Yeah, for sure. She gave me my shot to take on Straight Talk Live. You having some issues over there technically?
Yeah, give me my little network here. I am
okay. Yeah, I understand, man.
Let's see here. There we go. Can you see me okay?
Yeah, I see you okay. I hear you okay too.
Can you see me okay now? Perfect. All right.
Yes, I can. We good?
Yeah, so Terry Thomas she's still the operations manager. But in Houston market for Radio One. So she's a thing.
Yeah. She's been doing it for a minute. So you said the radio changing slightly. What do you mean by that? How do you see radio change? I mean, because a lot has happened since 2005, man. Like in terms of media, there's been an explosion in the digital scene. I want to get your thoughts about everything that's been happening and where we are now in media. But first, the radio, though, how do you think that terrestrial radio is changing?
Well, I think there was a time in the 90s going into the 2000s where I think corporate wise you had a lot of your companies kind of came in and swooped up a bunch of these radio stations. The mindset that there was just tons and tons of money to be made, and there is, but I think that radio, the communication side, is such a community connected scenario that it isn't just, hey, I can buy all these stations and we're just going to make a lot of this money. So what happened at a lot of stations, a lot of these larger groups, they're starting to let go of the radio stations, and what's happening is they're becoming community owned. And so I see kind of a return to some of the smaller markets where you're able to really super focus in and laser in on your community. Now, part of that has also come from, as you know, radio has been somewhat fractured of how people are able to, have access to that information or that music, right? And so you had platforms like your Spotify's and what have you, where people were able to kind of aggregate the music. But the challenge is that what most people realized is that they do enjoy the talking in between the song, right? You do enjoy some of that understanding what's going on in your local community, that your options I didn't really provide, right? Spotify is going to give you, it's a jukebox on the different songs and the artists you like, and you just let it play or what have you. But I think that radio has always been more than a jukebox. You know, radio has always been that place where you to and kind of able to get what KRS-One used to call entertainment, right? So that you can get a bit of education and a little bit of entertainment at the time. And I would dare say there aren't very many mediums that that can provide you of the two. That's extremely accessible. Able to see me?
Yeah, we can see you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm in the woods in Mississippi, guys. So I'm deep in the woods.
Okay.
But I think it's just changed a little bit. Again, I think that there was a phase where everybody wanted Spotify, and there's always been this thought over the 20 plus years that radio was going to die and this and that. But I think radio has simply had to change a little bit. Radio has definitely had to embrace digital and provide some digital offerings for people, part and parcel because of a better sound quality. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes perfect sense to me, man. You already know. I'm all into the conversation.
So,
I appreciate your time.
Yeah. So what we have here is, and I'm in Natchez, Mississippi. So I have an FM station as well as an AM station. FM signal is pretty strong in this market. The AM not so much. In speaking racing, part of the strategy for me is once we get that AM station kind of relaunched, the goal is to develop with an app. And so what that will do is allow us to really extend the station signal. People kind of tuned in and listen. So we're excited about the next, and that AM station. What I'm going to do here is to create Black Talk Radio. There's nothing like it in the region, and I think the market, the city, being Louisiana, but I think the region needs it. I think it needs an opportunity, a platform where African Americans can kind of speak and talk about subjects that are important to them. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, for sure. Let me ask this real quick, man. So you said you're deep in the woods right now, right? Is this your residence? Is your office or? Oh, okay.
Right.
So is there anywhere?
Right now, I'm.
Yeah, you hear me, Malcolm?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm wondering, is there any place that you could do the interview from where it might provide a better connection? Because what I'm worried about is I'm into the conversation, man. I think it's great, but the connection is not good enough for us to sustain it. You know what I'm saying? We're missing the best parts of it. So I'm thinking maybe what we do is we just reschedule it at a time where you can be at a space with a better connection. Is that even possible?
Yes. Yeah. I tell you what, again, and right now I'm at a home residence office, but once I get to the radio station, recorded or what have you,
Yeah, sorry about that. You never know with these kind of things, but I want you guys to, and I want to as well. I want to be able to enjoy the conversation. I can't really, it's so choppy. And so if it's choppy for me, I know it's choppy for you. And, come on, man, it's 9:17 in the morning. I want us to have a good experience. And if not, then we can always reschedule. It's no big deal. It ain't personal. It's just an internet connection. It goes back and forth. Everybody knows that. So I think that's what we'll do. Yeah, I think Malcolm's back on, so I'll finish the concert. Hey, Malcolm. Yo, can you hear me?
Shaking my head.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what, let me connect with you offline, man, on social media, and then we'll hook up a time to come back and bring you back on the show. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right, brother. Appreciate you, man.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's all about a respect thing. I asked the brother, I want us to be able to get something out of the conversation. So let me just wait. We'll pause a little bit. We'll just pause a little bit, and we'll pick back up with Brother Malcolm sometime in the near future. But you got a little bit of taste there. But I know you got things to do. I got things to do. That's a very choppy experience. So we'll pick back up with him. I appreciate it. But the brother said he bought an AM station, an FM station. I want him to talk about that journey. And I mean, it's a bunch of questions I got for him. But I also want to support him as well. It might be something you might want to tap into, see what he's got. But back to our original thoughts this morning. And back to the cover story of today's show. This is my cover story. Black man says no father in a house with children is a failure. I saw a lot of different, I just couldn't get to it. But I saw Danietta, she typed failure to who? And again, I am assuming the role of the brother. If that's the villain in this scenario, so be it. For the purposes of the rhetorical arts, to keep the conversation going. I don't know what this brother might say, but just based upon what I saw in this video, I think it's a philosophical, you know, very, very conservative viewpoint. That's what he's saying. He was like, wait a minute. She talking to the sister about what she think is success. She rattled off a long list of materialistic things. And in some cases, getting to know herself and loving herself first. I agree with all of it. But when she said, yeah, I can have a baby without a man and still be successful, he was like, wait a minute, no, you can't. In his view, and this is what I'm gleaning from the video, in his view, she can't call herself successful because if dad's not in the home, that's not a successful environment for the child in terms of being optimal, like the best environment you can provide, you can give for your kids. Now, let's be honest here. Sidebar. Everybody believes this. We all believe. Am I wrong in this? We all believe that if mom and dad on some positive and they're working together, creating a positive environment, then that's the optimal scenario for a child. TNT, she was like, well, what about same-sex relationships? Well, I can't speak for this brother, but what I can glean from his comment, he would say that's a failure. Because you need a mom and a dad, not two dads and not two moms. That's what I think he would say. That's what I believe the brother's trying to say. It's just that serious. And Shannon called in and said, well, what am I supposed to do with that? What am I supposed to lay this shame forever? Maybe. You know what I'm saying? There's a whole bunch of scarred up adults out there because you messed up your kids. Or you didn't do this, or you should have did that, or, oh, I know I didn't provide the best. People have called in and said, well, what if it's abusive relationship? Now, come on. For the sake of that conversation, everybody knows that if the option is abusive relationship or stay in the relationship, then you got to leave the relationship, right? You know, you got to leave the relationship. If the option is leave or stay in an abusive relationship, you got to leave because that's an even more toxic environment for the child. But the brother's making the point that dad not being there is a toxic environment. And why won't y'all just fucking admit it? You know the man is right. Just admit it. Are there any women out there that will just admit it? Just admit it. It's black and white. We already know the answer. People trying to wiggle off the intellectual, hook. It is what it is. The brother got a point. Unless you believe, and there's some that might believe this, that's not true, that's not the best. Like success, we understand now because of studies and whatever the internet and Netflix. Now we understand that children can just be just as successful without a dad than with the dad in the house. Now, who believes that? If everything is positive, like you can't use the argument about an abusive relationship. That's all I'm trying to say. These are not my words. I'm the pot stirrer. I'm stirring the pot for the sake of conversation, all right? Daryl, good morning to the show. Welcome to the show.
Nate, you really painting that box, aren't you? Yeah, I see what you're doing. But what I was gonna bring up, I think TNT hit on some good points, and not every situation is the same. And I think the brother initially, yeah, if you have both parents in the household, whether they're same gender or male and female, whether you have that in the household and that's going to create. I would put it this way, because I think he was too obtuse. Going back to what TNT said, because not all situations are because you have baby mama drama and all that stuff. It could be, as somebody mentioned in the chat, that the one of the parents passed for whatever reason. According to his definition, that would be a failure, and it's not necessarily negative. But I think the assumption is it's almost like he's underlying negative, and what I would say is two things to that. Number one, who's our standard? What are we judging our standard by? Is it the white family? Because if that's the standard, then we need to change our standard and we need to change our paradigm. So we're wrong. We're off to the wrong foot right there. If we're looking at the white family to take our cues of what success means. So we need to change that dynamic immediately. Number two is, you just brought up an abusive situation, but that don't necessarily mean physical abuse. It could be mental abuse, and one of the parties of the spousal relationship decides to remain in that situation for the children, and it becomes toxic. But does that necessarily mean success? Especially if you're treating, your son on how to mentally abuse women, or are you teaching your daughter how to manipulate a man? Is that success? So what I boiled this down to, after thinking about it and trying to listen to the conversation with the brother in Mississippi, and it was choppy, but looking at some of the comments and thinking about it, I think nobody hit on the fact what is key. And we go, because what we're saying is that success is by osmosis, meaning if both parents are there, i.e., the likelihood success is going to happen. And that's not true. And plenty of people have cases where both parents were in the household and that didn't equal success. And so what I would say is the measurement is not the presence of both parties. The measurement should be the level of engagement of the parent or parents in the household with their kids.
But Daryl, let me ask you this.
That determines success.
Okay, so
okay.
So let's say that's definitely a part of it. But let's say this. In your opinion, to raise a child, what's the optimal environment? Is the optimal environment mom and dad in loving relationship, positive relationship, creating a positive environment for their children? Is that the optimal, model that we all know we should be aspiring for our children, or not?
Okay. I'll answer it this way. You probably won't like it, but I say that increases your chances. Or another way is it gives you a ticket to the dance, but that don't necessarily mean the dance is going to be successful, because there's still a lot of work to be done once you get to the dance. So just because that's there, I can
So
have
that's a yes. That's what I take that from. That's a yes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it increases. Yes, I would say yes. It increases the probability, but it's not a guarantee.
And we're not talking about the guarantees, but that's what the brother is saying.
But if you go back and roll that video you were playing,
right?
He was definitive about what was failure. Therefore, the opposite or the counter position to what he said is, therefore, if the presence is there, that's success.
No, that's not what he was saying. That's not what the brother was saying, Daryl. That's not what the brother was saying. Let me explain it to you. That's not. The brother was responding to the sister's response to his question about what's successful. And she got this whole list about living her best life and loving herself and making $1 million and making this stuff. And then he asked her, do you think you can be successful if you have a child in the house and no father is there? And she said yes. And he's just saying, I simply disagree. A dad, if
that's how
you might be doing real good, but if dad is not there, you have now did less than provide what you should have for your child in terms of having a male presence in his life. And they forever going to be impacted by it. And therefore you might have material success, but in this way, it'll always be not what it should have been. And therefore a failure. That's what he's saying.
Okay. So, well, we're not privy to what was said before she gave her soliloquy about what is success. Cause was she basing it off of material? I mean, I may have missed it. I'm asking a question. Did she say that?
I believe she did. Look, I can roll it back here. I got it rolling in the background. I'll start it over here. I'll start it over when we get off the phone together, and then we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, yes, in a basic sense, he's right. But if you grew up in a household where the dad wasn't really engaged. I mean, he was there, so I would say there was some success there, but the dad was aloof. He was one of those dads where I come to work, I provide, that's it. You know, all this other stuff. I mean, I'll be there to, you have it's various degrees of that, and it's the same thing. You can put it on the mom. So there's various degrees on both sides. That's why I said, presence alone does not equal success. It increases the chances, but it's really the level of engagement. And that's what you were alluding to, talking about the positive environment, being engaged, having conversations, being supportive of your kids and various activities. That's what I'm talking about in terms of engagement, which is really the true measure, because that's the only way you can explain throughout, at least throughout my lifetime and generations in my family, how we had some success in our family from single mother households. And there was no fatherly presence. I mean, and then he doesn't, because you're getting a whole nother dynamic when you talk about blended families. I mean, it could have started out single mother and then they blended together with a father, and then you have that whole dynamic.
I think in that case, the brother would say that you have now corrected your failure and you have now created the environment that you were supposed to for your child. I think that's what the brother would say. Now you corrected your failure. You no longer have failed your child, kind of, because you brought a man in here and assuming he's doing the right thing, that's a great thing. But the most perfect thing would have been with his biological father. I think that's what he would say.
You are going to fight on that hill today, aren't you?
Yo, absolutely, man. I'm feeling this, brother. I'm feeling it. Thank you for the call, Daryl.
Take care.
Take it easy. Yeah, I'm feeling him. I understand what he's saying, and since he's not here to defend himself, I'll assume the role for the sake of stirring the pot. That's it. For the sake of stirring the pot. I saw people post stuff like, what about LeBron James? He came from a single mother household. And I think that the rebuttal to that would be that I mean, hell, you know, a rose can spring up from concrete. You know, that it just means that, and again, I'm assuming the role of the brother for the sake of the conversation. It just means that she failed and LeBron succeeded. You know, he took the humble beginnings and made something of it. I think that's what the brother would say. Somebody else said there's a lot of serial killers who came from single parent households. No. There are a lot of here it is, TNT. 2-parent households have raised serial killers and mass shooters. Well, I think the brother would say, I think the rebuttal to that would be, well, that just means that mom and dad did their job and then the kids failed. You know, if you and your husband, y'all got a positive relationship, it's a positive environment, y'all do y'all best for y'all kids, and them grow up and go do some dumb ish, that's on them. You did your job. So way to go, Dad. You know, F for the kids. I think that's how he might look at it. But let's go back to the phones. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Nate. It's Donnie B. How are you?
Hey, what's up, Donnie? Good to see you. Or hear you, should I say.
You know, I had to call in as a single mom. Happy Thursday.
Okay, absolutely. Come on.
A couple of things. So, number one, I don't think anybody's going to look at my life or look at my son Davis and see failure in anything. I'm a successful lawyer. I'm a good mom. My son is a good kid. Mild-mannered, very respectful towards adults. He makes good grades and goes to the number 1 school in the state. So my problem with this dude in the video clip is one thing, first and foremost, is facts. So to say that automatically, if you're raising your child in a home without the father, that makes you a failure, I'm like, house way. My son's not failing in any aspect of his life, and neither am I. Second of all, what I'm not going to do is take his father's failure to be there for him and to properly raise him and participate in his life as a reflection on my behavior and my actions as a mother. I don't take on other people's poor choices as a reflection of me. So that's number two. When a parent, male or female, chooses not to be a good parent to their own child, makes choices that make it toxic for them to stay in the home, that's not a failure on the parent that stayed, that's successfully raising their kid. That's just a failure on Will Smith's father. That's just a failure on Shaquille O'Neal's father. That's just a failure on LeBron James's father. It's not a failure on the mother who stayed. So my issue is for him to make that blanket statement, and he knows nothing about what the consequences or the situation is or would have been had that father stayed. It's not automatically positive for both parents to be in the home. And I agree that a healthy parent relationship with 2 parents there is optimal, but it's only one optimal situation. There are others. Sometimes having a 2-parent home is not optimal, and what I have a problem with is this brother not addressing that. He just makes it automatic. Father gone. He never brought up any scenarios. He's like, father gone, that means you're a failure. It don't mean anything for me. It means his father left, his father made poor choices, his father was toxic, and the best decision I made was to raise my son by myself, because had his father stayed, the Davis that we have today, we wouldn't have. So that's number one. Number two is, what I don't like is you got to play the whole clip. Because the whole clip, when you start from the beginning, it started out with a strong black successful female saying that she was successful in her own right and doesn't need a man to define success for her. And she started out the conversation saying that she was very successful before she met her husband, and that getting married and being with her husband didn't define her success. And instead of that dude applauding her as a strong black woman who's a business owner that was successful in her own right before she ever got married, he tried to tear her down by bringing kids into the mix and flipping the conversation to some other shit. And that's the problem I have with him. What's the real goal of the conversation? Because there's nothing wrong with a black woman or any woman saying, you know what, I don't need a man to define me and make me successful. I can be successful before I get married. And being successful as a black woman doesn't mean that you don't need or want a husband. It means I don't need a husband to define my success, which is different. For example, with me, I've been a lawyer for 22 years. I've been running my own firm for over a decade. If I get married tomorrow, ain't no dude going to be able to say he defined my success. I was successful before he came along. He can compliment me. He can provide love and companionship, but he can't define my success. And me saying that a man doesn't define my success has nothing to do with single parenthood. But this dude didn't like the fact that the sister was saying she was successful without a husband, and he tried to flip it, and now we're having this long tangent rant on whether or not being a single mother makes you a failure. This dude is a loser. He couldn't handle a black woman saying I'm strong, saying I'm beautiful without a man. And so he flipped it into a whole nother conversation. Why do you even bring up, well, do you feel like, well, what if you have kids?
Let me go back here. So
what does that have to do with her saying I'm a successful black woman?
Let me go back here. So you're right. That's exactly how it started. And I played it from the beginning.
And that's the problem that really should be on the table.
But then,
what's the matter with this black dude that can't handle a black woman saying I'm successful in my own right?
I think you're being unfair. Then he asked her.
Being unfair how?
Let me set the table. He asked her, what is successful? And she went through that whole thing. And I think everybody agrees with what she said. She said, I love myself. It ain't about a man. Everybody agrees with that. And then she said that she could be successful. He asked her, what about children? And she said, yeah, I can have children without a man. Now you just
that's not what she said. That's not what she said. What he said was, define success.
The father in the house, not a man. But
that's not what she said. That's why I need you to replay the clip. That's not what she said. And that's not what he asked her. What he said was define success. And she said what she said. And then he said, what about children? And she said, I absolutely believe you can be successful with children, is what she said. And then he said, what about if the father is not there? I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
Right.
It started out as a simple conversation with her saying, response? I'm a strong black woman and I'm successful.
Right. But her response was, yeah, father don't have
because
to be
you
there.
Can.
And that's what started the whole conversation. And
so
his
let's analyze that.
is, and you said you thought it was optimal, but it was a lot of optimals, but one got to be the most optimal. If we can all agree that the most optimal situation for a kid is mom and dad in the house, assuming nothing toxic, everybody positive. If we agree that that's optimal, but don't the brother have a point? That's the point he was trying to make.
No, but here's my problem with what you're doing, because that wasn't his point. He didn't say, hey, would you agree with me that having a healthy two-parent home is the most optimal set of circumstances to raise a kid? What he said was, if there's no father in the house, you are a failure.
Right,
that's two different statements.
Right.
That's
exactly what he said. Let's keep it on point.
No,
that's
he didn't say this is an ideal situation.
That's exactly
he's basically calling me a failure.
So what he's doing is he's equating I'm saying single motherhood, but single parenthood with failure. Because it appears that in his opinion,
because
the
single
best
parenthood isn't
environment
always
for
failure.
a child is mom and dad in the house on some positive-ish. And anything less
but
than
if you
that
don't have
is
that,
a failure
that doesn't
for
automatically
the child.
make you a failure.
Not a failure for the mom per se, but a failure for the child, because the child is not getting what everybody knows that the kid needs, which is mom and dad.
Well, here's the problem. First of all, we assume that because you're a single parent, that the kid isn't getting what he needs. But I'm a Christian. God says he'll be a father to the fatherless. And as I raise my son by myself, God has brought me, men and women to help me raise my son and to do things in the absence of his father. So let's stop that narrative too. That if the father ain't there, then that means my son is forever doomed. My son pees standing up like every other dude. My son is an athlete and plays sports like every other kid. My son makes straight A's at Walnut like other kids. My son has good moral values like every other kid. I provide for my kid. He lives in the house. He has his own room with a PS4 like other kids that have fathers. So let's stop the narrative that it can't be done. And what I'm saying is, let's
that's
separate.
Not what he's saying.
That
he's not saying
no,
that
he
it
said,
can't
that's what he
be
said. He
done,
said
Donnie. That's
he
not
said
what
I'm
he's
a
saying.
failure.
He's not saying
no,
that
you're
it
trying
can't
to inflate
be done.
Other stuff.
He's not saying you can't do a good job. He's just simply saying that
yes,
in his view, it's less than optimal for the child, and therefore
he didn't say less than optimal. He said failure, and that's what I'm saying. You're inflating
my argument here, but basically that's what he said. He said it's a failure.
That's not basically what he said.
That's what he said.
And then my thing is, no, having a two-parent healthy relationship and a two-parent healthy home is optimal if it's healthy.
Right.
But that's not the only healthy, optimal option.
Stop right. That's it. In the argument. That's the only thing he's
had
saying.
He said that, we wouldn't be on the phone.
That's what he's saying.
Had he just said that, we wouldn't be on the phone. He told this black woman, if you have a kid with a father not there, you are a failure.
That's exactly what I heard when I heard the tape. I didn't hear. That's what I heard he was saying. It's a very like religious, fundamental, very conservative viewpoint, but that's what the brother is saying.
I don't think that's what he's saying. And if had he been saying that, we wouldn't be on the phone blowing you up right now. I think that's what you heard, but that's not what he said.
Oh, that's what he said.
Had he said that, I wouldn't be on the phone.
That's what he meant.
That's better. And I don't think that's what he meant. But let's assume for argument's sake that is what he meant. I wouldn't have a problem with that. My other issue is it started with a black woman saying, I am successful without a man. Why is she getting pushback from a black man on that? Isn't that what y'all want? I don't want y'all complain about the chick that has nothing going on for herself, expects you to pay all the bills and be Captain Save-A-Ho. But then when you get a strong black woman that is successful in her own right, and she's saying I'm successful, then you want to tear her down and bring up a failure. I don't understand how the conversation even got here.
I don't either. Listen, to be honest with you, I saw the clip. I don't either. That's the only clip I saw, and it does leave open the door for a lot of question marks. I don't know. I don't know if it's like a regular talk show. I just know I thought that this little clip right here was interesting.
And for me, I'm like, we need to stop tearing down women that are successful, and you know, in this whole I don't need a man scenario. Let's backtrack. Just because you don't need a man financially.
He was not tearing down women. The brother
was
just
she said I'm successful, and he was like, well, what about this? Well, what about that? There you are, you're a failure.
It wasn't a deposition, I don't think. He was just having a conversation with her. He just has a very fundamental, religious, fundamental, old school Christian viewpoint on it. Right?
I don't think it's a Christian viewpoint.
Okay,
I challenge you that it's not a Christian viewpoint.
Because I really ain't no authority on that. I just threw that in there.
It's not a Christian viewpoint because the Bible literally says be a father to the fatherless.
It's an old school viewpoint.
There it is. And for me, I'm not even going to call it old school because even in modern day, as a single mother, that wasn't what I chose for myself. My issue with him is, but to say I'm a failure because my son's father isn't here? No, you're not going to call me a failure. You're not going to call my son a failure or anything about our life a failure. Now, if you want to say a two-parent home that's healthy is the optimal situation, no problem. But I'm stuck at how did we get here? Because it started with a black woman saying I'm successful without my husband. She's married, by the way. And what she said was I was successful before I met my husband. There is zero wrong with that. It should have been end of the story. No argument. No additional mind games to try to trick her into being roped into this single mom, I'm a failure BS. As a black man, I really want to challenge him. Where did that come from? What is it about you that you couldn't just let her make the statement with confidence that she's successful in her own right? Men do it all the time.
She was
men go out here and they get.
I don't think it was a diabolical plot, Donnie. He was just having a conversation.
Go back to the beginning.
You know how people be pivoting and turning conversations? That's all it was.
Is that what it was? It was a pivot?
I don't think it was anything despicable about it. He was just having a conversation, and it just happened to be a moment that we could have this conversation about. That's it.
Replay the clip.
I'm about to play it right now.
From the beginning, when she started out saying, right, and then let the choppers decide. I think this dude was being facetious. He didn't like the fact that this strong black woman was saying she was successful before she met her husband, and then the conversation went left for no reason.
See, that's just you. He was not trying. He didn't get all in his feelings because she was expressing being a strong black woman. I don't think that's what it was at all. I think it was just a conversation, and he was like, okay, so what about if children? Because maybe it was like a landmine. It was a loaded question. It was loaded.
It was a landmine. You said it. It was a landmine.
Okay, it was a landmine. It was a landmine.
Right.
Okay. But
and my issue is why? Why does the black sister that's successful got to get put in a landmine by a black man when she says I'm successful without my husband?
For the sake of the conversation,
so why are we talking about
trying to bring all black women down?
Here's my issue. So when we're talking about ideal situations, so it's ideal for two whole people to get married, is it not? It's not ideal for one spouse to be emotionally healthy, physically healthy, financially healthy, and the other spouse to be a drain. So what is wrong with her saying I was successful before I met my husband while we're talking about ideal situations? So yes, it's ideal to have a healthy two-parent home for your children. It's also ideal for no spouse to be Captain Save-A-Ho, and for each spouse to bring something to the table to offer the other spouse and to complement each other as opposed to being a drain for the other.
So you're trying to add all this other stuff. You add all
Am
this
I
other
adding?
stuff.
You
We
added?
already know. We got it.
Do we already know that?
Yeah, we
Because it sounds like he had a problem with it.
See, I think that's just you.
Sound like he had a problem with it to me.
I'm going to play this back. But see, this is why we need that show back, Black woman.
I'm coming.
Okay, just hit me up. Thank you for the
call. I got a trial. When my trial's over, I miss y'all. I'm coming back.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah, I know y'all missed that. Fire. I appreciate Donnie keeping the conversation going. She was heated, boy. Woo, single mother. Woo, start feeling personal. God damn it, you ain't going to tell me I'm a failure. Now, who the hell you think you talking to? She wasn't having it. She wasn't having it. It was cracking me up a little bit. I wasn't laughing at her. It was just, she made every bit of it too. That was hilarious. Let me play this back. Cause y'all, man, woo. You listen to today's conversation and you're going to hear the fine rhetorical arts. Some of these calls have called in and twisted this brother's words all around to make it whatever you want to make it to be. Donnie made this brother out to be like the black KKK for black successful women, and he trying to tear this sister down because she's having her Mount Olympus moment. And why do you ask her this question? I just got the clip. I'm just as curious as you are, but I thought that was a pretty fun conversation there. But of course, let me say this again. People keep trying to make this toxic relationship comparison. Everybody agrees that a toxic relationship is something that you got to leave. That's more toxic than not having a child, than not having a father in the home, if that's the case, or having somebody toxic in your house or not. You got to have them out of. Everybody agrees with that, right? But that's not the point the brother's trying to make. The brother's just saying, hey, sis, you think you pounding on your chest, you think you successful, but wait a minute, you just going to have a baby with no father? That's not what your child needs. Your child needs dad in the home. So while you might be successful in every other way and you got 50,000 followers on Instagram and you're making, middle six figures and life is good, you didn't provide what you needed for your child. Therefore, it's a failure. It's very strict. It's not flexible. Right? We don't like that kind of stuff. It's very rigid. But I think that's the point the brother's trying to make. But I'm going to play this again real quick for the people in the back or who may just come into the room. This is the video that sparked the conversation. Check this out.
My husband, I was already successful. A woman doesn't need a husband to be successful because I didn't need my husband. I was already successful and up before I had him.
What are you talking about?
You don't need a husband to be successful. Not at all.
What does successful look like, boys?
Happy in your own skin, happy with the person that you are, in love with the person that you are, that you don't have to look for a man to love you because you already love yourself. And that's what I mean by a successful female. Because success can look in any other way. Is this successful female
going to have children?
Yeah, she may have children. She may have children.
So
she may.
So it's part of being successful with kids?
Yes, you can be successful with kids. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So how can you be in this, what you just painted out to be successful without being married, and you have a child in this scenario? So without
the child has nothing to do with that scenario.
Children has everything to do with that scenario. So when you said a woman can be successful,
so what does she mean when she said the child has nothing to do with the scenario? Wait a minute. Was he trying to say that the overall well-being of her child, meaning having a dad there, doesn't matter? It seems like that was what he was responding to. That's what it seemed like. Rotate.
Get married. When you add a child to that, she's no longer successful. She is now a single mother. And being a single mother is not success. Single motherhood is failure. A child, a family comprises of a man and a woman, not a woman. If you are a single mother, there is a certain amount of failure. And I'm sorry to say this, but we got to stop this shit. We have to look at life the way it actually is instead of what y'all asses want.
We got to stop this shit. we got to stop this shit. That's what he said. So that's what the brother said right there. But let's go back to the phones. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Mr. Ivey. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Welcome.
Man, you are on your game today. You picked another excellent topic, and all I got to say, Mr. Ivey, is that the statistics speak for themselves. You can't really, I mean, you can't argue what the brother's saying, but the statistics speak for themselves. I posted a bunch of statistics in the YouTube chat line. I don't know if you read them, but like I said, it is clear that this is a fatherless generation if you were born after 1990. And again, the statistics speak for themselves. If there's no father there, it's going to affect that child as they become adults and older. But it definitely affects them as their children growing up and going through school all the way through high school. So again, you're going to get an argument from the women, Mr. Ivey, but this was a man. And until you have a woman call in and agree with that man, you're going to have fun for the rest of your show, Mr. Ivey, because the statistics don't lie. It's a fact. So that's all I got. Thanks for taking my call, Mr. Ivey.
Thank you for making the call. Let's drop right there, man. You can find him on Twitter. Black Not Democrat, doing his thing. So, let me put the cover up again because there's a question here. And I want to make sure we don't get away from it. Black man says no father in the house with children is a failure. Does this man have a point? Or is this some bullshit? Is this some bullshit? That's an option. And you see me looking at them suspiciously over there. Right? You can see me looking at them very, very suspiciously. Is this man on some BS? I don't know how the conversation started. I don't know. I don't know if this is a show or if this was just two friends getting together, or it looks like it's on IG. So sometimes people do that IG live and they invite people to the stream. It could have been one of those. And then somebody just jumped into the conversation and they had this conversation. Okay. I don't know how it started. But that's what it is. What are your thoughts? What do you think about Donyetta's call? What do you think about TNT's call? What about Daryl? What do you think about Drop? Drop's like, look, the statistics is real. No, I didn't see the stats, Drop. I did not. But appreciate you posting it if it's something that's legit. Some facts, some Fox News stats about black people. We ain't with the business. Let me play the rest of the clip for the people who might just be joining. Check this out.
Want it to be. For you to sit here and say you could be successful, cool, yes. But when I started asking you different parts of the success and you started adding children, well, if there's no man in the household, if there's no man leading, helping you raise that child, sorry, that is not success. See, if you would have said, oh, one can make millions of dollars, not that's success. But there is no success when there's only a mother and not a father in the household, because then you're thinking selfishly. You may feel like you're successful, but does your child think you're successful? Does your child think that they're successful? No, because they didn't have no daddy. And even if the daddy was around, they didn't have a daddy raise them in the same household. There is no success without the intact family. Now, I've admitted in my own life that I have a failed marriage and I spent time with my kids, but I was no longer in the household. The number one thing we have to do is stop being children and be real with ourselves and say, hey, I do have a certain level of failures in my life.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm going on and on and on. Sorry about that. Sorry, I'm not sure how long we was doing that, but you know it happens. My apologies. Is it 9:56? Oh, damn, I've been doing this for 3 minutes. Oh my gosh, this is terrible. Sorry about that. I'm not sure why I had it muted for a second there, but didn't hear that. She got jokes. That's hilarious. She said, God, no, we didn't want to hear that damn nonsense. I know that's right. But thank you. I appreciate it. I know a lot of people was trying to tell me. But listen, I really appreciate you being here this morning. Have an excellent rest of your day. Hopefully the conversation. Listen, I just want to inspire you where we can, and just give you some information and hopefully some entertaining and interesting conversation. Hopefully you have some fun with the topic. But really, I think it's some very real themes in it as well. I won't try to reiterate everything I said, that I was muted for like 3 straight minutes. It was great flow. I can't recreate the magic, so I'll leave it like it is. I guess you weren't supposed to hear it. You know what I'm saying? It's between me and G.O.D. Maybe G.O.D. was listening to the show this morning. I don't know. This show has legs. Let other people see it on social media. Please like, and in particular, share this show wherever you share shows or you think the black folks are, or any folks that you think might get into today's conversation. Shout out to my friend, brother Malcolm Ennis. His connection just wasn't there today. We're going to reschedule. We've already started that process. And we'll bring it back on. He bought 2 radio stations, an AM station and an FM station down in Mississippi. So we'll talk to him about that and get his perspective. So again, have an excellent rest of your day. I appreciate you. I'll be back with you, and hopefully better than ever tomorrow morning at bright and early at 8 a.m., maybe a little after 8 a.m. We get the engine revved up, and we'll chop it up on people, politics, and pleasure. Oh, yeah. Also, I might need your help. Looks like I may be one of the moderators from an upcoming debate between Ohio senators. So I may need your help with some questions. So I might be talking about that tomorrow and into early next week as well. And maybe even over the weekend on social media. So have an excellent rest of your day, family. Thank you for everybody participating in the conversation. It was very interesting to hear the different views. Again, your currency is the fuel for this show, or your opinions are the currency for this show, should I say. Have a great day. We'll catch up real soon. Remember our motto: winners focus on winning and losers focus on winners. So stay focused and stay winning, and we'll talk real soon.